On today's QTNA, we're going to talk about wireless access points. But first, I want to take a little bit of time because I need to explain my accent. Yes, I am Southern, and so you're going to hear this throughout the entire video that I do, and that is just my gift to you. So I'm going to bring in my friend David, and I'm going to teach him the proper pronunciation, the Southern pronunciation of just a few words. We've got pan, down, on, and call. High five. Today's question is, a small business owner contacts you regarding his wireless access point. And here's that wireless access point. His speed has gone down. When you research the issue, you discover that there are more devices on the network than the small business has, and that the SSID, or the Set Service Identifier, is broadcast and WEP is used. You need to increase the security of his network. What should you do? And there are multiple correct answers to this. A couple of things that you need to see in this is that there are more devices than he has. Usually this means that you've got some lovely neighbors that have decided to piggyback on your network and use your access point as their way to access the internet. So there are several things that you can do to help with this. All of these are considered better. Don't try just doing one. Usually you implement multiple things. First of all, our first option here is disable SSID broadcast. This is a correct answer. You should disable the SSID broadcast because the SSID broadcast, any of you know, if you turn the Wi-Fi on your mobile device, you're going to see all of the networks around you that are broadcasting, and they have a name. Well, if you disable SSID broadcast, they will no longer see your name when they're around you. So they would have to know the name of your network to connect to your network. And so if you're not broadcasting it, they can't find it as easily. Sophisticated attackers could, but most of your friendly neighbors won't be able to do that. The next option that we have down here is change to WPA2. WEP is basically no protection. Even though they call it an encryption protocol, it has been broken so much that it's not considered secure. There are two options that are better than WEP. There's WPA. That was the first edition of it, and then there's WPA2. So changing your encryption would also help. Along with changing your encryption, you should use a long pre-shared key, and the longer your key and the more complex your key, the less apt it is to be broken. Now this third option, it says increase the signal strength. Your WEP router, your wireless router, has a signal strength attached to it, and the greater the signal strength, the more distance it gets. This is actually the opposite of what you want to do. If with this router you can configure the signal strength, you would actually want to decrease. So this option is incorrect. This last one is enable MAC filtering. As most of you should know, all of the devices on your network have a MAC address, and that is an address that is hardwired into that device. If you enable MAC filtering, you can do one of two things. You can either allow certain devices or deny certain devices. Now, if you deny certain devices, you have to actually know the MAC address of the people that are trying to get into your network that you do not want to connect. A better plan is to configure and allow MAC filtering. So you are configuring only those devices that you want to allow in. In this case, you would find out the MAC address of the devices that the small business owner has, and you would add them to your allow MAC filter. Then any other devices that want to connect will not be able to connect. Now, a security professional will tell you there's a way around this. Well, let's hope you don't live next to a security guru, or you don't work next to a security guru, because most of these measures are enough to protect you against your neighbor or the business next door. These are not considered sophisticated enough to protect you against a true attacker, someone that has some sophisticated skills. So you would need to do a little more than this. But that's it in a nutshell. Those are some measures you could take. Other measures that you also need to consider, because we're talking about wireless access point, is most of these wireless access points come configured with a default SSID name, so that there's a default network name. Those default network names usually transmit by the model number. So if I were to see you and you did not change that default, I see your network name and I see a certain thing. I might say WGA. These are some Linksys names, and it might have a 1137. This is me making it up. I can often go online on the internet, look up that name, and realize, oh, that's a Linksys router, or that's an AT&T router. And I can find out things like the default passwords, including the default admin password and the default admin account. If you do not change these defaults, you need to change things like the default SID, that needs to be changed, the default SSID, any default accounts, and any default passwords. Those all need to be changed because they're easily found out from the internet. Just by doing a couple of Google searches, I could get that information. You also need to make sure with this, with the using your encryption that you do use, I mentioned it earlier, the large, complex pre-shared key. You don't want to make it, 1, 2, 3, 4, or password, my favorite. You want to make it something that's a long, complex phrase with some complexity introduced by using different types of letters, numbers, and symbols. And then another thing that you can do that I did not mention here is you can do, most of them has an area on it where you can configure the number of devices that connect. They have a maximum number. A lot of times they're 8, 12, 24, whatever. But you can change that. So in this scenario, you could also go in there and go, oh, this business has 4 devices to connect. So I'm going to go in there and say 4 devices can connect. And then with my MAC filtering where I only allow those 4 addresses, no one else can get in. The bad thing about this, you buy a new device, you've got to remember that your wireless access point is configured for 4 devices and only these MAC addresses. And that's it in a nutshell. Thank you so much.